Let me guess, if you open any kind of social media platform right now, you will see at least 10 videos telling you how you can make $10,000 in 1 month using AI, but you're not sure where to start because you're still using AI like you used to in 2023 when it first came out, right? Well, that's because I like to say there's 5 levels to using AI, and most people that I've spoken to, and even professionals and even people in the tech industry, are hovering around level 1 and 2. In this video, I'm going to break down all the different levels of AI use, all the way from level 1 to level 5, with concrete examples and scenarios, and also tell you how you can jump from level 1 to level 2 to 3 and so on. And most importantly, why you shouldn't try to jump from beginner at level 1 all the way to level 5, because it will bite you in the ass. So let's talk about the first level of AI use. This is pretty much entry level, and this is how we started using AI when it first became public around, when was it, 2023. But a lot of people are still stuck using AI like it's 2023, and they don't know that you can jump ahead. So the first level is using AI like it's Google. So you're using it reactively. You ask a question, it gives you an answer, that's the end of it. But there's so much more you can do with it. So an example would be, if let's say you're a blogger, you go in ChatGPT and you tell it, write a blog post for me. And then ChatGPT writes the blog post. And then you go back and you say, oh, actually, can you focus on this keyword and this and that? And then it focuses on that keyword. But it's still very much, you ask, it gives. You ask, it gives. It's, you're barely scratching the surface. And of course, when you're using AI just to this capacity to ask questions and get answers, it feels overhyped, right? You don't understand why am I even bothering? Why are people saying this is so revolutionary? It's pretty much like Google with a nicer interface. Well, this is because it's barely entry level at level 1, and you're barely scratching the surface of what AI can do. It's almost like using a rocket to go to the grocery shop. Of course, you think it's overhyped because you're sitting on this power horse and not doing anything with it. Then you have level 2, which is the slightly more advanced users that have learned a bit about prompting, that become a bit, I like to call it the collaborator, where you're working with your AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, to come to some sort of solution, or to write something, or to achieve a task, to complete a task. Following on from the previous example from level 1, an example of using AI as a collaborator would be, you don't just tell it to write a blog post, you give it an example of your voice, how you write. You could give it more detailed explanations about how to write the blog post. This is the kind of structure I want. This is the length I want it to be. These are my targeted keywords. These are some unique points of view I want you to include in the post. So here it's almost like you're treating it as an assistant, right? It's not just ask a question, get answers. You're actively collaborating with it. This is where you start to feel the merits of AI use, and you're like, maybe there is something to this thing. If you're already sitting between level 1 and level 2, what I encourage you to do is try giving more context. Look into prompt engineering and frameworks like the City framework, where you have to give context and information and details. It's almost like working with an assistant, and you give much more related to the task that you want to achieve. It's not just a generic question, because when you give a generic question, you get a generic answer. This is where you start to formulate a more advanced prompt that you send into, let's say, ChatGPT for all intents and purposes. So if you want to move on from level 1 to level 2, this is how you do it. Give more context, give more information, give examples, give don'ts and do's. Tell it, don't use these phrases, or these are phrases I want you to use, because this is a form of reinforcement in a way, and selective writing. The LLMs are very good at picking up. If you tell it, don't do this and do that, then it's much clearer what they need to do, and they understand a bit more, so the answer is much more detailed as well. And now the level in the middle, which is level 3. I like to call it the strategic partner. This is where, instead of asking it to do something, you bring it a problem that you seek a resolution to, and you start pushing back and forth to get what you need. It's almost like you're using it as a sparring partner that tests your ideas, your concepts, and you push back and you give your answer, and then you push back again and you ask it to challenge you and you debate together. So it's almost like having a business partner that helps challenge your thinking, because we all know what it's like to be stuck in your own bubble. You think it's the best idea since sliced bread, but actually it's kind of shite. And this is where AI can call you out on your bullshit. So an example of this would be not write me this blog post and here's the examples like we would in level 2. Instead, you could say something like, let's again use a blog as an example. You could say something like, scan through all of my sitemap and see what kind of content I already have. This is a new blog post I'd like to create. Does this fit in with my niche? Is this part of my topic cluster? Does it make sense to write an article like this for my audience? And this is where AI can start pushing back and being like, actually, you're drifting a bit. This is not the sort of thing that your audience is accustomed to. Maybe, why don't you try this approach? And then you can push back. Yeah, but this is not really what I'm interested in. Maybe I want to take a new direction. And you have this back and forth that keeps that conversation and ideas flowing and going, which is really, really useful. Another example would be, let's say you want to come up with a business plan. You could present it with your idea. Let's say I want to sell automations on Fiverr. And you can say, this is what I'm doing, this is my competition. Identify bottlenecks and problems in my plan. Identify potential challenges and opportunities. And then objectively present me with your findings. Because then it's going to do an analysis on your idea, on the context you gave it, on perhaps your competitors, on the market, or anything else. And it can tell you a more objective opinion on, is this a good idea? Actually, you haven't considered this is a highly saturated market right now. Then you can follow up and say, okay, what do I pivot to then? If this is overly saturated, what else can I do? Something that is still along the line of AI automation. Can I offer it to business? Can I offer it to bloggers, content creators, and so on? And that's when it can start bringing that really valuable brainstorming. And maybe it's going to say, considering your background or considering your skill set, how about you do this? And they're like, yeah, this is a great idea. Hopefully, this is the resolution you're going to get at level 3, where it pushes you to think and you push it back. So it's this constant back and forth. It's like tennis, right? You're strategically working together to come up with new ideas and push your concepts forward. An example of how you can move from level 2 to level 3, and if you remember at level 2 we said it's all about adding more context and giving more information and more details, and a finer description of what you're trying to achieve, also giving examples. Level 3 is when you ask it to identify problems in whatever task you're doing or whatever plan you have. You start strategically pushing back. If it gives you an answer, you say, I don't think this is the right way. Go back, do detailed research, and then come back to me with your findings. So you force it to do more, to give you more, to be more objective, to analyze, to debate. This is how you move into this level 3 of the strategic partnership. Here's my challenge for you if you're trying to move into level 3. Identify something, a problem that you're struggling with, or give me a business idea, something that you'd like to build or something that you think has really great mileage. And then go to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it is you're using and ask it to challenge that. Don't specifically say challenge me, but say, you can say something like identify bottlenecks, identify gaps, opportunities, misrepresentations, whatever is applicable. Tell it to give you pros and cons, to push back, identify if there are any issues with inventory or whatever it is you're doing. And then take that forward and get that conversation and the creative juices and critical thinking going. At level 3, it's also when you can start building small stuff and very gently start dabbling into custom GPTs, or maybe you start using projects and skills, but it's all still very surface level. You're starting to build some tools that are helping you a bit more, but you're not quite there yet. And this is where we're very nicely going into level 4. And this is what I like to call the Delegator, and when you start putting your builder hat on. So Delegator is when you're not just treating AI as a thinking partner and someone that just pushes back, but you're actively delegating it tasks to handle for you. This is where you start regaining some of that time back, because you don't need to prompt everything every single time. This is where things start getting really interesting, and trust me, there's so much merit to getting to level 4, because you will gain so much of your time back, which means you can focus on the really important stuff and you can 10 times your productivity. So far up to level 3, you're still the person in the driver's seat, right? You're still the one that's driving the entire conversation and the entire rapport. But at level 4, this is when you let AI fully co-pilot for you. And I'm not talking about Microsoft's Copilot. I'm talking about the concept of co-piloting. So this is where you can give it tasks that it can go away and do for you while you're doing something else. An example would be, do research on this market for me whilst I'm working on the business plan. And then it comes and it presents you with the findings that you can then integrate into your business plan. So it's still kind of a partnership. It's not yet fully autonomous, but it's almost like this is a level where you're starting to have AI as an employee. So you're very slowly hiring, quote unquote, an agent, a PA, someone that can answer your emails, someone that can sort through your inbox, someone that can log your receipts. This is where things get really juicy. And let's get into it. Let me give you some examples. As we're starting to go into builder territory with level 4, this is where you can start building small agents for yourself. The most common one that I've seen people build is just an email agent that scans through your inbox. You can set it up to fire every, hour or every day. And it can either sort emails for you, delete what's not relevant, or sort it in a different box, and then present you with a daily brief. Or it can even handle customer emails for you, or any kind of inquiries or anything that's quite surface level and you'd like to get rid of. So basically, this is where I tell people at level 4 is where you want to identify the most time consuming tasks in your week and in your day. And this is where you start thinking about, okay, how can I delegate these tasks to AI so I can free myself up to do the really important stuff, the heavy lifting and the stuff that actually brings in the money, right? Another example would be, let's say you're a content creator or a blogger. You can say, take this post or take this idea and turn it into a different style formats. So it could be, I want an Instagram post, but give me the caption, generate the image for me, repurpose this video into something, take the transcript, turn it into a blog post. It depends what you're trying to do. But it's basically, it's almost like delegating it to a personal assistant or virtual assistant, and you don't need to worry about that task. For businesses, an example could be something like watch my inbox for any kind of potential leads or potential customers that slide in there, and then ping me on my phone when it's something important, or immediately send an email back to them so they know I'm on it and I'm, super fired up. Another example would be, after every client meeting, you can have an agent that fully transcribes the meeting. It summarizes the most important stuff. And for example, Zoom AI already does this, but you can take it forward, you can take it further. You can take that summary of the meeting and turn it into action points. And then you can get the agent to email your client specifically with the action points and next steps as agreed in the meeting you've just had. This already frees up so much time, and it's almost like replacing a secretary, right? But I'd still like to say that this is where a lot of videos and content I've seen online overpromise. Level 4, the Delegator, is still not plug and play, and you never have to touch it again. There's still a level of check and a human gate that you need to exercise in order to make sure that the agent is doing his job properly. So, for example, if you're still quite new and you're dabbling with setting up agents and creating all of these things for yourself, you want to have some guardrails in place until you know you can trust it, right? And it's doing its job properly. So an example would be, instead of getting it to fully send emails out, it can just leave them as a draft in your inbox, and then it pings you, either sends you an email or a text that says these drafts are all ready for your review. And then you go review them, tweak what needs tweaking, and that's it. But it still saves you a lot of time. So if you want to move from level 3 to level 4, let's say at level 3, you've already identified, maybe you've used level 3 to identify the gaps in your week. What's bleeding the most amount of time in my tasks? Where can I be more efficient? You can use it as that sparring partner, right? And level 4 is where you start fixing that problem. So you put your builder hat on and you start working with Cloud Code or Codex or whatever it is to start setting up these agents. So what I encourage you to do if you want to move on to level 4 is to identify a time-consuming task in your week that you'd really like to get rid of, or something that you just don't like doing that's tedious. In my case, it would be, I hate sending sales emails, so I would like to automate that fully. So you can then start thinking with AI, jumble between level 3 and level 4 to spar, how can I build this agent? What do I need it to do? What is the framework for it? What is the end goal for this agent? And what do I want to get out of it? And then slowly start building it. I'll cover this in another video if you guys want, on how to actively build AI agents, but that's not the purpose of this video just yet. So when I like to call level 4 the supervised autonomy, now going into level 5, this is when we go into full autonomy. And I like to call this level the architect, also because I'm an architect and I like that name, but because this is where you let AI fully architect these frameworks for you. This is when we start going way beyond just standalone agents, and we're going into swarms, agentic swarms, which is almost like a mini army of agents, or agentic workflows, which are triggered. One agent does one thing, then it passes on to the next agent, then this one does its job, and then it moves on to the next one, and so on. So if at level 4, you still need to pretty much supervise a lot of that, at level 5, you pretty much engineer it, you architect the entire infrastructure, design it, build it, and then that's it. Your hands are entirely off and it handles it for you. So the key word for level 5 is full autonomy, where you trust that you've set up your system well enough that the AI can entirely handle it for you with very minimal input for you. Now, I will say in full disclosure, unless you're quite technical and you require this type of automated work, most people never have to reach level 5, unless if you really want to. So to make it click better, let's say at level 4, it's almost like you have to tell each team member what they need to do. You're the manager, right? You're the team leader. Whereas level 5, you are the CEO. You have a fully fledged team that is vetted, and you've done all the work, you've hired them and interviewed them, and they know how to do their job. So what you've done is you've architected the entire overarching system and how it works and how these teams collaborate together, build it, and then it's hands off. Every agent does its job, and then it's supervised by a larger agent, which is then again supervised by another agent that does the cross-check and review and editing and so on. So all you need to do is drive the strategic direction and focus on really hardcore stuff. I would say for me, this is hands down the most exciting part of using AI, because, like I said, I freaking hate selling and cold calling and outreach and all of that. And in my case, I design full systems that do the research on potential clients, find the contact, reach out to them, making sure it fits exactly my value positioning and my services, but also what the client might require. And then all I do at the end, I am presented with a list of leads, like real, fully fledged and vetted leads, and video call schedules that are already handled for me. I just show up in the call, we seal the deal, luckily, and then that's done. So all of that legwork was not me. I did the legwork, setting up the system, but then the actual mechanics of it is fully handled for me. So now that we hopefully understand all of these different levels, I like to say that it's really important to understand that there is a merit to go gradually from level 1 to 2 to 3, 4, and ultimately 5, if you even need to reach level 5. You might find out that for your business and your needs, level 4 is more than enough. And that's, like I said, that's completely fine. This is where I've seen a lot of people get confused when they watch videos online and tutorials that just tell you, yeah, you can go from absolute beginner to complete pro, jump from level 1 to level 5. That is kind of bullshit, pardon my French, because you won't learn in a sustainable manner. And at the end of the day, the purpose is to truly learn how to use the technology, not just to make a quick buck, which realistically, if you don't know how to use it, you won't make that quick buck anyway. You're just going to waste your time. And this is when you're going to default back to say, oh, AI is actually rubbish. It can't do anything I'm asking it to do. Well, that's because you haven't learned how to use it properly. So what I recommend is to go back to every step. If you're at level 1, go to level 2 this week. And then next week, you go to level 3, and then you keep it going. It's better to go step by step and do it consistently than try to jump too quickly, because you won't be able to steer the rocket. Every astronaut needs to go through training, right? This is your training, going from 1, 2, 3, 4, and ultimately 5. And if you do it this way, you'll also be prepared for when the next level hits, because trust me, at the level AI is accelerating, we will be getting a level 6 and 7 and so on quite soon. So if you're not sure where you're standing in terms of levels and you'd like someone to tell you, I've made a really simple self-assessment quiz that you can take to figure out where you are. It's entirely free. I've linked it in the caption below. Go ahead, take the test, and then let me know what level you're at. I will also give you, at the end of the quiz, I will give you an actionable strategy you can start implementing to move on from your current level to the next one. Or if you're at level 5, congrats, let's have a chat. But anyway, let me know where you're standing, and I like to hear where you are, where you'd like to go, and why.